Hey Annie, how are you?
Hello, very well, thank you.
Well, I'm glad we're able to connect today. As everyone can see, we're doing this bit different today. It's over the phone, and I'm glad we're able to connect and still get to talk to you because I know based on where you live, the connection probably would not have been very good for video wise from what you told me.
That's right, I live way out in the boonies. I live not far from the border of Canada.
Oh wow! Well, that's always nice. Kind of having that little spot to yourself is. I think everybody needs that at some point in their life.
Well, I especially did because of the kind of work that I do.
All right. Well, I guess uh, I guess let's get started. And before I forget, you always mess this part up. Always doing it kind of backwards. Well, welcome to the Ozark Mountain Publishing Author Series. And so today is your turn to talk about your latest book. You're an author of four books, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
For Ozark Mountain, yes.
Right. And so your latest book is Joy of a Guardian Angel, then?
Plural, joys of a guardian angel, correct.
Yep, my mistake. Text is really small and I'm looking from a screen far away. Correct. So, Joyce of a Guardian Angel. So, before we get into that, if you could please just give us a little bit about some background about yourself, and then we'll get into the book after that.
Okay, well, I've always been a spiritual-minded person, but not conventional religion. I've always found my spiritualism in the woods, in the fields, and my spirit guide began speaking to me telepathically in 1989. And at that time, he asked me, or actually it was a master guide, asked me to write a book. That was my first book, which was called the Dawn Book, which is a lot of information from the master guides. And then in 2001, my spirit guide asked me to write his story. And I think it was 2015, 2014, maybe, when I finally connected with Dolores Cannon. And she had read that second book about the story of my spirit guide, and she said, wow, this is right along the lines of what I do. Is it okay if we publish this? So she published Education of a Guardian Angel, and then she published the Dawn Book, which is the first book. So those two were when Dolores was still alive, and I very much appreciate Canon Publishing, Ozark Mountain, for publishing my four books. The most recent two are about elves. Now, if this is the time of year when we think about elves, and if you like elves and if you want to know more about the elves, then you probably want to read Work of a Guardian Angel or my most recent book, Joys of a Guardian Angel, because those are focused specifically on elves and how they interrelate with our spirit guides. How's that, Adnan?
Yeah, it's a great segue. So, please do tell then, how does that happen?
Everyone has a personal spirit guide. Okay, everyone has what they call a life guide. And why it's called a life guide is because that entity is your guide for your entire life, from before you're born until after you pass over, and helps you get ready for whatever is next for your spirit. So I started off by knowing my life guide, whose name is Darcy Stillwater. Now, Darcy had a former life as a scribe in Roman times, so he is a very good writer. And I'm a writer, too, so we were a very good match. And so we immediately began writing together, so that the Dawn Book, the Book of Information, and Education of a Guardian Angel and Work of a Guardian Angel and Joys of a Guardian Angel, he is co-author of all four of those. So they all have the spirit guide perspective, which I love because they can really see everything so clear, whereas we humans are often caught up in our own stuff.
Hmm.
Anyway, I did. So Emerai was the first elf, and she's the elven avatar, and her book is Work of a Guardian Angel. And she was born in 2001, shortly after the 9/11 tragedy. And there was no accident in that. But what we want to do is focus on Joyce. And Joyce is the story of her siblings, and there are two pairs of twin boys, and then three female. So altogether, 7 more elves, and their stories and why they're here. And this way the reader gets to know them and gets to know the elves in their own lives, and especially those of you who are gardeners or into trees or any of those natural things, the elves are right with you all the time. So reading these books will help you understand their world and how they can help yours.
Annie, so this world in which they exist, I guess because a lot of us want to always attribute like their own individual dimension for things like ghosts or other supernatural things. Do they kind of come from that same space, or is it something different?
Well, there are many levels that we humans don't understand because we're physical. We're born with, carbon bodies, and we're very physical and grounded. But there are many, many levels beyond ours that we can connect with if we wish, and that's one of them. One of them is the realm of the elves and fairies. I'll put the fairies in there too. But yeah, the ghosts too. They have their own level, and it's very complex. So I hope that my books will do something to help people understand the realm of the elves and how they interact with us.
And so, can you please go a little bit into, I guess, into the like what are the elves, kind of what is their main purpose? I mean, is it kind of like what we do, where we have to live our lives and discover our purpose, or do they understand things maybe on a different level?
Well, they have gifts beyond ours, that's for sure. And of the 8 elves that I write about, the first 4 are communicators. So their job is to be able to communicate to humans, for instance, but also to other levels too. But they're specifically communicators. The second 4 elves that I write about are healers, and they are called upon particularly if you need healing, and they can come around you and help you with that. So they have different functions. The elves are particularly fond of trees. So if you have a favorite tree, or you have some favorite trees, or you have an orchard or something like that, you'll have lots and lots of elves around and opportunities to get to know them.
And so, do you have to necessarily be outside a lot in order to make these connections, or basically, does it require a specific state of being or a specific environment for a connection to occur between, let's say, a human and an elf to have some kind of interaction?
Yeah, that's a good question. And with the elves, it's particularly useful to be outdoors because that's where they thrive. But with spirit guides, you can be anywhere. And I would suggest to the listeners that the place to start is with your spirit guides, because everybody has a life guide, and there are spirit guides around to help you all the time, and it doesn't matter where you are, you know. So I would start with getting to know your spirit guides. And then if you are particularly an outdoors person, you know, like I said, into trees and orchards, then you're definitely somebody who's linked to the elves.
And so, do they kind of have a unified message for us when it comes to the way we live our lives, or something that maybe we should pay more attention to, or is this kind of like just saying, kind of like, okay, live your life. We're just letting you know we're here, and that's pretty much it to this.
Well, let's talk about the two things. The spirit guides are here to help us personally through whatever challenges we have, whether they're health challenges. And believe me, I've faced mine. I'm 76. So, and the elves are particularly helpful for the earth in general. And as you know, the earth is warming, and we're coming to kind of a crisis point where we have to pay attention to what's going on. And the elves are very much about the earth and caring for the planet. So the spirit guides are more personal to you and what you need, whereas the elves are more to the earth and what the earth needs.
And so, in the book specifically, just want to clarify, you mainly write about the elves, correct? In the
That's
latest
right.
one. Okay.
Although spirit guides play a big part in everything.
And so, can you maybe go a little bit into what other aspects about the elves did you write about?
Okay. Well, like I said, the Avatar, the first elf that I'm familiar with, was born right after 9/11, so that was 2001. So they're all still pretty young, although Amarai just had her 21st birthday, and by the way, we had a big dinner party for her. It was great. Wasn't even me that did it. It was one of my readers said, "Oh, we've got to have a dinner party to celebrate Amarai's 21st birthday." So the elves are still pretty young, but their job is definitely to help us be aware of the earth and what the earth needs right now. And just you name it, whatever the earth needs: more trees, more attention, more love, more caring. That's what the elves are all about. They're connected with this plane of existence, so they're very much concerned about the planet and what happens here, because this is their home too.
Oh, and so, what kind of guidance do they give? Is it just to simply stop what you're doing and go a different direction, or do they have something more insightful, something more practical that we would be able to then act on right away?
Okay, well, I would say that the spirit guides and your personal life guide, they're the ones that have guidance specific to you and your life and your karma and what you need to accomplish during your human lifetime. The elves are more concerned about the planet, the health of the planet, and the flora and the fauna on the planet. And so they will talk. You can communicate telepathically with them much as you can with your spirit guides. But again, I suggest everyone start with their own personal guides, and hopefully those who are listening, you've already contacted your guides. You know your spirit guides. You know them. You've communicated with them, and there's many ways to do that. Sometimes the guides will speak to you in dreams. Sometimes they will talk to you telepathically if that's something that you can do. And once you would develop that telepathic awareness, you can talk to anything, really. You can talk to You can talk to trees, you can talk to your garden plants, you can talk to the elves, it's really opens up worlds and upon worlds. So I really highly recommend that people develop their telepathic abilities, and that's not really that far-fetched, because the place where, if you go, let's see, if you go down from your crown and behind your third eye, that is the telepathic center. And if you activate that, and I always joke about, well, if you're in the line at the grocery store, or you're in the line at the bank, and you're just killing time, well, take the time to light that up. Put a light in there. Put the sun right in there. Light it up. Activate it, and you get that telepathic center activated, and you can A, talk to your guides, especially your life guide, and B, talk to the elves or whatever entities are around you. So I really highly recommend that people get in touch with their telepathic abilities. How's that?
So then, I guess by then connecting more to that and kind of connecting with each other and on that level, that's going to kind of help us just understand things better and maybe bring some change about.
Oh, yes, correct. I mean, if you start talking with the elves, you're going to be an activist for the planet. I mean, there's no other way around it. And we need more people to stand up for the planet and stop the bad practices and increase the positive practices.
So can you tell me a little bit more about what else you covered in that latest book?
Well, it talks about each of the 7 elves and how, and in all my books, you don't just learn about the entity, but you learn about where the entity has been. In other words, past lives. In Education of a Guardian Angel, the very first book that Ozark Mountain published for me, that talked about my past lives and my spirit guide, my life guide's past lives too. And once you understand your past lives, you really have a good idea of how you got to where you are. And I know that Dolores Cannon did a lot of that work, the past lives work. So in this book, Joys of a Guardian Angel, you learn about each of these entities because they all were humans once. In fact, here, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
The second and third elves were twins, okay? And they came in as twins, male twins, and their backstories, they both had lived on Earth as humans. The first one had a former life as King Arthur, and there's a story about what it was like for him as a child, as a young boy. And then the second of the twins had a former life, which is now developed into the legend of Robin Hood. But it talks about his youth and how he became what he was, and they both play into what they are now as twin elves, and how they can relate to us as humans. Because again, those first 4 elves are communicators. So you listening, you can know them, you can talk to them, you can communicate with them, you can learn what they have to tell you, what they have to teach you, and it could be big. Certainly was for me.
Right. So you talked about them, being born at certain times and dates. How does that happen for them? I'm assuming it's not the same way that humans are born.
It's similar. It's energetic rather than physical. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, elves are energetic beings, and so their birth is energetic rather than physical. Yeah.
This kind of sounds like something I've heard a while back. So is it just kind of the energy that wants to come through, just kind of condenses more and then condenses itself into the being that it wants to be?
That's a good way to put it. But if you want more details, you can read the books.
Mm,
They're
good deal.
very specific, so you get to know about that.
Is there anything else that they want us to know?
Well, the elves want us to know that they're here, and they're here to help, and they're here to be part of our lives, just like our spirit guides really, really want to know us and want us to know them, and want us to know that they're here to help us. And so everybody, open your hearts and minds. We have lots of help there. We may not be able to see it, but we can feel it and hear it.
So, any is there any in the future? Is there any kind of collaborations or more interactions that are going on that might result in another book?
Oh, yes. I guess I'll just keep going as long as I can, and then at some point I'll be on the other side too, and maybe I'll join Dolores, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Well, so the that interaction, is it always telepathic with you and them, or do you actually? I'm sorry if I missed it. Do you actually get to see them in the form that they want you to see?
Well, again, much like spirit guides, they project images, right? So, but it really is all telepathic. It's all in the mind. And the one, there are many beings. The one being that is able to produce a physical, I wouldn't say physical form, but at least all right, I was on this walk, okay, and my spirit guide, Darcy, said to me, would you like to meet a gnome? And I said, yes, I would love to. And so he had me stop. We were outdoors. We were walking by the river. And he had me stop. And sure enough, I looked ahead, and there was in the road that we're walking on. It was a dirt road. There was an area that was all kind of blurry. And he said, "Well, they're the ones that can show themselves the best to humans, you know. But mainly, it's all through telepathy and through feeling, heart and mind. That's mainly how you interact with these beings."
And so, is it kind of like through that interaction, you kind of get a sense of who they are, what they like, don't like, and kind of maybe even what the environment is like from where they are communicating from?
Yes, they tell me lots of things, and I encourage the listeners to open your hearts and minds and be aware that you are not by yourself, but there are many entities around you. And if this is a fearful thing, simply put yourself in protective light, and only the beings that are positive for you and helpful for you will come forward, and the others will stay away. I've taught tons of classes, Edna, and I've really taught, and I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, I met my guide, and my guide was scary. Oh, and it had big teeth, and it was." I said, "That wasn't your guide." I said, you need to learn to use protective light, and then you don't have to be afraid of anything.
That's interesting. You say that. So, are there other beings that we should be more wary of? Basically,
Just use
something that
protective light. Yes,
right.
yes. Just use protective light, and you'll be. And if you want to know the elves, you use protective light, and you say, "I really want to meet the elves that are here in my area." Or you say, use protective light, and you say, "I want so much to meet my spirit guides or my life guide." But make your intention clear and use protective light.
Do they the elves specifically or spirit guides, do they talk about these negative entities at all, or is it just simply said just use protective light and kind of move on to more to the positive things?
Exactly. You got it. Because they don't want to give any energy to those negative beings. I mean,
Okay.
sometimes they're people who haven't passed over, that their spirits are still here. The ghosts that you talked about. It varies what exactly is out there. But to tell you the truth, Adnan, I never really explored that because I'd much rather stay on the positive side of things and deal with the elves and the spirit guides and the fairies once in a while. But again, if the listeners really want to know more, I suggest you read those books.
All right. Well, Annie, is there anything else in conclusion that you would like to leave us with?
Oh, I just want to thank Ozark Mountain Publishing for making these books available to people. They're very valuable, and the information is not just from me, but also from Spirit. So thank you very much.
No, no, thank you. Well, when this is completed and edited, I'm going to have all your links and links to the books and any social media that I have available for you. I will put that in the description below, so anyone interested can, hopefully either go to get the books or maybe go to whatever other sites you have to find out more information. So, well,
Okay.
Annie, I'm glad we're able to connect today, and thanks. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. Well, you take care and have a good rest of the day.
You too. Okay.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.